So what is happening when a person experiences trauma? The first thing that happens is we develop triggers. And I know that word comes with some feelings for a lot of people, but these triggers can be really obvious to us. It might be, okay, I'm not going to go back to this house party because I know they play that kind of music. And, coming back to our previous example. But a lot of times they are unrecognizable either to the person or to the observer. So that might mean, having a parent in your office who says, I don't know, all of a sudden they go to 0 to 60 for no reason. And it's usually not that. Usually there's a reason, we just haven't pinpointed it. And it could be a sensory input. It could be a feeling inside the body. It could be a thought that crosses their mind. It could be seeing somebody who looks like somebody else and that was enough. So the first thing that happens usually is there's some kind of input that is a trauma reminder. And this leads to dysregulation. When somebody is dysregulated, and we're going to talk a lot about this, the ability to think clearly decreases. So the ability to access complex thinking skills. So those are things like focus and concentration, planning, being able to think about the future. Our ability to do those things decreases. So coping skills, access to coping skills is a complex thought. Okay, I need to stop what I'm doing now. I need to go over here where, some of my supplies are for my coping skills. I need to sit down because I'm upset. If we're dysregulated enough, all that goes out the window. The emotional and reactive responding increases when somebody is dysregulated. And hyper or hypo arousal is often a response to those situations. So let me give you an example. Let's talk about just basic conflict resolution. If I'm regulated and somebody shoots me an email that says, you were supposed to have turned this in yesterday, why didn't you turn it in? We really need it to be able to move forward on this project. If I'm feeling good that day, I might say, oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot it. Let me put aside what I'm doing right now. How can I meet your needs? Let's talk about this. Let's find some kind of middle ground. How are you feeling? I'm so sorry I let you down. But if I'm not in a good place, my first thought may be, how dare they? They knew how busy I was. And this is awfully disrespectful for them to include all these other people on the email. Now they know. And I start going down a rabbit hole. And maybe my email response, I need to press pause and I need to wait a few hours before I press the send button. So even in that one situation, that's not a trauma response necessarily, but you can see how dysregulation can impact the ability a person has in that moment to respond in the way that they feel like they are doing their best responding. So how we respond to people in our environment, whether that's a person with autism or not, we need to consider what state they're in. Are they in a regulated state or are they in a dysregulated state? Oftentimes I get parents who come in, let's say it's a 15-year-old person who identifies as male, and they say, when he is at school, he's like a normal 15-year-old. And he goes to classes and he has friends and everything's fine. But then when he comes home, it's like he's 5 years old. He doesn't do what I'm asking. He'll throw a fit. And then when it comes to when he's with his friends, it feels like he's 10. So we need to think about where the person is developmentally in these different scenarios and respond to them as such. If the person is acting like they're 5, it might be because they're so dysregulated that those are the kinds of skills that they have access to in that moment. And we should respond as such. We should be respectful of that. It also goes to show that that our development isn't linear. And I know we've talked about that a little bit already today, but our educational development versus our social development versus our emotional development versus our cognitive development, all of these things don't happen at the same rate. And so, we also should be mindful of varying differences. We can't say you look like a 15-year-old, so I'm going to expect 15-year-old behavior across the board. It's just not true for anybody. So while we're talking a lot about autism today, all these things that we're talking about in this presentation is true across the board, no matter who you are. Relationships act as a buffer to stressful events. So two people may experience the same event. One may end up with symptoms of PTSD and another might not. And a lot of times that comes back to what kind of resiliency factors are at play and what kind of support did that person have during and after those events to help moderate those symptoms.